Welcome, rural village folk, murderous cult members, and no, this isn't Torchwood Countryside. We've already done Countryside. Welcome to the special 350th episode of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 15th of April 2020, and featuring K-9 and Company, a girl's best friend, starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, and John Leeson as the voice of K-9. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and I think we left out a companion in the cast there. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
No, we didn't, because anybody else is technically a guest appearance.
Mad Matt Winchell.
Ramune of the day.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Yo!
And Thomas Fireheart.
Satanic cults, for kids.
Technically, it was Hecate, not Satan.
Yeah.
I know.
That
Putting
did
the
not-
finest of hairs there, sir.
That looks like a last-second script correction
Yep, that's
to
what
me.
I was going to say. That looks like somebody came in and said, no, we can't do that.
That did not look like any cult of Hecate I've ever seen.
Yep. I was actually going to talk about that, but since you've already opened the can of worms...
Yes. And what a strong smell of worms that is.
I'm sorry. The other opening bump I thought was a couple of scenes from the movie Dragnet.
Oh,
Where
I
they're
love that
looking-
movie.
Where they're looking at these guys doing this worshiping, and you just hear them, yep, pagans.
It's like,
And
God,
How's
I-
everybody's week in captivity?
hmm,
How is this
fine.
different than any
Pretty
other
much the
week?
same.
Good look at my watch. That doesn't exist. The only
It's
reason
all
I can
good.
keep track of the week is because of what I stream on what particular day.
It was a week. It happened. I ate
spending my
food.
time.
I ate food. I played Assassin's Creed. Yep.
But the only thing
Okay,
that's
well-
going on for me is I might be having to cancel Dungeon Keeper, not for the first time.
Mm.
Why is that?
When I get to late game, the game just likes to throw these weird curveballs that are essentially one-sided, and it's really hard to figure out what the hell they want you to do. So it's like, I'm not going to sit here watching a walkthrough step by step just to get through one level, thanks.
Well, I guess I'll mention the major updates in my life. I already posted these in our Discord channel.
Mhm.
But on the one side, my mother first got transferred from, she was undergoing chemotherapy for about a year after after a combination of complications of the chemo and the fact that it didn't seem to be doing much good even when they try anymore due to probably resistance to the drugs, and still wasn't after they changed what she was getting. First switched over to hospice care, and then after a few days she died on Sunday. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, the day before that, I got notified that I got accepted to a PhD program at Ohio University, which I will be starting in the fall.
Which university?
Ohio University,
Not Ohio State.
not Ohio State.
Okay, I wanted to make sure about that. I have a thing about Ohio State.
I will be in Athens, not Columbus.
Okay. I have kind of a hate on for Ohio State University, because I find the fact that they announce themselves in commercials as the Ohio State University to be a bit pretentious. It's always bothered me that they use the. It's just it just sounds it just
You're not
reeks
the
of
only one,
pretension.
you pricks.
Yeah, we're the Ohio State University. I'm like, God, please tone your pretentiousness down, please. We're the University of Wisconsin. We don't do that. No, it's the University of Wisconsin. Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason when that when someone refers to them as the something, it's usually like a heel wrestler or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that might be where it comes from, is the fact that I'm used to, I used to watch wrestling. I know heel terms, and when people act like that, they tend to sound like heels.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's always been like oil and water for me. I have no issues with people that have gone there if they're decent people, but just the way that their publicists are handling them, the university just makes me go, ugh.
It's Randy's rage, John.
It's just one of those things. It's just, do you know what grinds my gears kind of thing? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what pisses me off? People that use the instead of the. I mean, come on.
Unless you're talking to the queen, I think you need to knock it off.
Fuck you, and you're the too. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. A little
Kind
bit
of
of Carlin.
I was gonna say, kind of switched into Carlin voice there
I was.
after
Yes.
after our discussion of not last week's episode, 2 weeks ago's episode.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned that George Carlin was part of was part of the basis of my personality, because I watched his stand up like constantly throughout most of the 2000s.
Another thing that bothers me is people that still use Z. Even the
No,
Scottish have given it up. Time to move on. It's all
Nope.
Z's.
Zed rocks, go the way. You and your freaking Z.
I was gonna say, you're not going to war to England or war with England right now.
Settle down, have some tea.
Why has England suddenly picked it up? Literally, they weren't the ones that used it. The people who used to use it have given up on it.
England's been using it for centuries.
The only appropriate use for Zed is the Emperor of Evil.
I thought that was Zod.
Different
No,
Zed-
Emperor.
Zed's
Zod's
in Power
the one you
Rangers.
got to kneel before.
Okay.
Oh, all right. So on tonight's show, we've got some birthdays. We've got a little bit of news. Not a lot. It's been pretty dead out there.
It's like people are staying home for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. We've got one thing in Geek
As
Talk,
they
and
should
then
be.
we've got our summary, our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's get into birthdays, shall we?
Yay.
The first birthday is April 9th, which was the birthday of Neve McIntosh, who played Madame Vastra from 2011 to 2014. She turned 48. Next, April 13th saw the birthday of Peter Davidson, who played the Doctor from 1982 to 1984. He turned 69. The
Nice.
14th saw the birthday of Peter Capaldi, who played the Doctor from 2014 to 2017. He turned 62. And I might have said this last year, but it still freaks me out a little that these two doctors from one from mid-range classic to the other one from just previously are 7 years apart.
Mhm.
Mm.
I mean, one was the youngest Doctor
In the
ever
classic era.
at the time that he acted, and one was the oldest Doctor ever for his first season.
Mhm.
Mm.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
no,
except for the Doctor that never had a season.
He was tied with Hartnell, I thought.
When he was announced, he was tied with Hartnell. When he started, he was a year older.
Ooh, okay.
Mm. And by the end of his run, he became
But yeah, they all aged by the end of
purely
their
by-
runs. So
Yeah, I think by virtue of the end of his run, he became the oldest, main show
The-
based around
The
him
oldest Doctor aside from Hurt.
Yeah.
mhm.
Ooh, excuse me.
Also on the 14th was the birthday of Terrence Dix. Writer, script editor, wrote various episodes from 69 to 83. He would have been 85, but he died last year at the age of 84.
Hmm.
So long, Terrence.
Yep.
Yep.
We'll miss you.
And that takes us to today.
Oh, yeah, in more joy.
First birthday is the birthday of Maisie Williams,
Oh wait,
who
sorry.
played
that's
Ashildr/Me in The Girl Who Died,
Mhm.
and pretty much most of that season, 2016. She turned 23, being
Of course, is
probably
better
one of the
known
youngest.
as Arya Stark from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Peter Moffat,
Lots of
director
Peters.
from 1982 to 85. He would have been 97, but died in 2007 at the age of 84.
Was he the Pumpkin Eater?
He was the director for State of Decay. He directed a lot of stories in the Tom Baker era. And up to the Two Doctors, so
Mm.
he was the director for the Five Doctors, by the way, too.
Huh.
I like Five Doctors.
So yeah, happy birthday to Neve, Peter, Terrence, Maisie, and Peter.
Yes.
Got all
But don't forget
Peters this
Peter.
month.
Oh yeah, we're not going to have any the rest of the year. They all decided to crowd into this week. And then from birthdays, we go to Lost Stories.
Yep.
Yes. An Unearthly podcast solemnly announces the death of Pip Baker, part of the writing team of Pip and Jane Baker, created the character the Rani, and wrote both her classic appearances. Pip and Jane started writing together in the 1960s, working on films such as The Painted Smile, The Break, The Night of the Big Heat, and Captain Nemo and the Underwater City. They also worked in television writing episodes of Circus, Z-Cars, and Space 1999. In 1985, they were commissioned by John Nathan Turner and Eric Saywood to write a serial of Doctor Who. Marka the Rani aired in the 22nd season, featuring the Master and introducing the callous Time Lord scientist the Rani. It was well liked enough that J&T and Saywood asked them to write another script for the following season, becoming The Terror of the Vervoids, part of the Trial of the Time Lord arc. When Robert Holmes got too sick to write the finale of the arc, and Eric Saywood quit the production, Pip and Jane were asked to step in and finish the job, which they had to do from scratch on incredibly short notice.
I think something like 3-4 days.
Yeah.
Following the broadcast of the season, Pip and Jane had to defend their scripts on the show Open Air against some not too happy Who fans, including a young Chris Chibnall.
Chris Chibnall, pay attention to this. Remember that. When you're going to be
he doesn't
defending your
remember.
scripts against not too happy fans.
He doesn't remember. Also, I've seen that footage of Chris in that particular bit, and he looks really like an annoying little brat.
Finally, after the hiatus, Pip and Jane wrote McCoy's first episode, Time and the Rani, bringing back their creation for another serial. In the early 1990s, they created the children's program What on Earth, which ran for 24 episodes on BBC One. Jane Baker died in 2014. Pip Baker died this morning after being ill for some time following a fall. He was 91.
Oof. That's about the range where my grandmother is right now. She survived a fall, though.
Yeah, well, when you get that old, your bones get brittle, and sometimes when you fall, you just don't recover.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Currently, she's in assisted living right now. She's managed to recover, but she doesn't feel like going back home anymore.
Mm.
This is her recovery, by the way. It happened while my uncle just died the last couple of weeks too. So that was her. That was her only son. So that just made things all the better.
Yeah,
I know. And actually, that was yesterday morning, not this morning. I'm sorry. That was from the news articles.
So that was
from
Monday
the 14th
morning.
of April. No, it was Tuesday morning, 14th.
Oh wait, never mind. Okay.
Yep. Anyway, moving on.
Yes. On the 11th of April, there was another shared viewing of Doctor Who. This one of the Matt Smith episode, The Doctor's Wife.
One of my favorites.
Yep. Arthur Darvo, who played companion Rory Williams in the episode, decided to get into the act like Dan Sharkey had with Day of the Doctor and act out a scene for the Twitter audience. Written by Neil Gaiman, who wrote The Doctor's Wife, and with some vocal assistance by Karen Gillian, who played Rory's wife and fellow companion Amy Pond, Arthur raided his closet and acted out a scene of Rory recording a message for his adopted son on the only working smartphone in 1946.
Yeah, I watched it. It was an interesting little kind of heartfelt little mini vid that they just put out on Twitter just because. And yeah, it was decent. Kind of gave me the awes and, a whole buttload of nostalgia for an era I'm usually not that fond of. But yeah, in retrospect,
That's because they seem to rip up the heartfelt stuff.
yeah.
I saw some Moffat tweets about it, but I didn't realize, like, I never know ahead of the time when these are going to be. I don't know where they announce them, but...
Well, I always see them on the news thing, and it's just like, in 2 days. I'm like, well, fuck you. I can't announce that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe I should be checking out news sites during the week then.
Because it's like
Apparently.
they come out with Thursday and said, yes, we're doing this weekend. I'm like, well, fuck you.
Right.
It'd be nice if you told us sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
BBC
When-
gave us
like
a
when-
week.
Like when Big Finish posts on Friday that on Monday there will be a sale.
Yeah. And like, I see that news article, and I'm like, well, we can pass on that. Sale's over. I could have gotten the word out, but no, you had to be real
Mhm.
tight on it.
Yeah. Darn you.
The Eon Series 12 in the upper right-hand corner still got that weird blotch in the wrong place.
So, meanwhile, speaking of Big Finish and sales,
Sales!
Oh, yes. So as we discussed last week, Big Finish has decided to give people something to listen to while they're on lockdown or social distancing. Every Monday, a new story or episode from a box set collection will be made available to download exclusively from the Big Finish website's weekly deals page on the Big Finish website. These stories can be unlocked by anyone who has registered for a free Big Finish account and played on the Big Finish listening app, which is free to install. Each story will be available for 1 week only and comes accompanied by a special discount offer on related titles. This week's title is The Companion Chronicles: The Beginning, written by Mark Platt and starring Carol Ann Ford and Terry Malloy.
I've already bought it.
This is the one, I believe it came out as part of the 50th anniversary special, that was intended to be the earliest chronological Doctor Who story.
I think we reviewed that, didn't we?
May have changed. I think we may I know I definitely bought it and listened to it. We
Yeah,
may have
because
reviewed it.
I remember listening to it, and I'm just like, okay. But now I own it, so, and you can too. So that's all the news we've got. Like I said, it's
Yep.
been quiet out there.
Hmm.
Big Finish also released something, but we had talked about it in the coming soon not that long ago, when it's basically all the same information. So I'm like, I'll just say it's out.
That's out.
It's out.
Bye-bye.
It's like,
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So what is it that's out?
the dogs. The dogs are out. Who let the dogs out?
It's Cry of the Vulturous.
Ah,
And I think I remember, I looked at the blurb and I'm like, I remember reading this. I read this aloud. So yeah. It's a 6-Doctor monthly range kind of thing. So with Flip Jackson, Constance Clark, they get knocked out of space and yeah, wind up having to deal with this. Yep. I remember reading that.
yeah.
All right. So Geek Talk.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I was almost gonna have I planned on maybe having more than just the one, but then I just never got around to watching anything. And then this morning, I've been up since 3 this morning, so I went, oh fuck it, I'll watch Akira between watching K-9 and Company.
I haven't
So-
watched Akira in like, I want to say about 2 decades.
It's been at least 10 years for me.
It's funny thing is I didn't realize that this was from 88. I used to think it was from 98 for some reason, but
Oh, hell no.
No, Sonny boy.
Hell
You
no.
bright-eyed child. No.
yeah. This was like, it was funny because at the end when it ended, I was just like, huh. That was well, that was interesting. Like, it's weird. I liked it, but it's one of those things where I feel like I'll probably have to watch it more to have like more comprehensive thoughts on it, possibly.
Actually, I
or,
think they
like,
cut
be
out a
able to
lot,
absorb
so
it
you
more.
might want to actually check out the manga as it goes into a lot more detail.
That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, when I
Supposedly in like the
realized,
middle of the story, they cut out like 4 years of things that happened. Like in universe, 4 years worth of things that happened.
Well, apparently they made the movie before the manga was even finished.
That I wouldn't disagree with as a possibility either, so they probably didn't really know how to really officially finish it because they're like, we don't know, we got only cliff notes.
See,
And they're not even finished.
I should have rewatched Akira last year because I forgot it was supposed to happen in 2019.
Yeah, that was the other funny thing. I was like, because I'd meant to watch it last year because I was like, well, this is set in 2019, why not?
Our
And then
future
just never
past.
got, and then didn't get around to it, and the streaming service that had it, let it slip. So it was like, oh crap, and then it got it back again recently. So I was like, oh well, why not?
Yeah,
I'll
if we had
finally get
if we
around
had
to
had GeekCon last year, I would have been pressuring Aaron to have put that in the anime room just because 1989 kind of a then and now thing.
Yeah, it was funny because like at first I was like, wow, I can kind of see where stuff that came after this might have got inspiration from, and then someone pointed me in the direction of Devilman, and then I read a synopsis, like a summary of that, and was like, oh, okay, this is probably kind of inspired by that, and Evangelion makes a lot more sense now. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know if it's just what's happened since I've been alive, but like a lot of the imagery in this was very like hit me a bit harder than I thought it would. Because like there's a lot of shit getting just blown to hell in this, and it's just like, fuck, this is affecting me more than I thought it would. And it's so interesting because it's like, well, I guess you can add this to the list of things that a generation of Japanese creators got inspired to make because of what happened with like Hiroshima and all that.
I wouldn't be surprised if
like,
partially
friggin'
some of
hell.
that comes out of that, yeah.
Yeah. I would, I don't know if this lived up to its reputation though for me, but not in like a wait, really kind of way. Just like, oh, I liked it, but I don't know if I'd be like, oh my god, greatest anime movie ever.
Yeah, when you were
kind of
watching it in the 90s, I can tell you were pretty much, oh my god.
The entire time,
But
yeah.
But it's been muted over the last few decades by stuff that's come after it, kind of desensitizing you to it.
Yeah, I mean, like I haven't really seen all of Evangelion, but I do remember jokingly thinking as I was watching this that I could picture the person who created Neon Genesis Evangelion watching this and going, "Hold my beer."
Oh wait,
like,
no! If you've not seen all of Evangelion, you need to see End of Eva, because that's basically him looking at the series and going, "Hold my beer." That's going, you guys didn't like the ending, huh? You want the real ending. All right, here you go. Hold on to your spleens.
Yeah, I'm definitely at least glad that I finally got around to watching it, because it's one of those things where I feel like despite it possibly not living up to its reputation just because of either stuff I've seen or the expectation based on its reputation kind of killing it, um, I'd still say that this is like, if you're an anime fan, this is still worth watching to at least have an opinion on. If nothing else.
It was.
I can see myself watching it more than once. I will say, I tried watching it dubbed at first, but then I realized that Tetsuo's voice actor for the dub that I was watching was the same guy who did Tai in Digimon, like in the first series of Digimon. So that was so distracting that I was like, okay, no, I'm not going to be able to take this seriously.
Yeah, Digimon. He was the voice actor from Digimon Fusion, and Digimon Adventures. Joshua Seth, and
Yeah,
that's
so it was-
that's the Pioneer Genian dub from 2001.
yeah.
See,
Past
if
5 minutes, by the way.
Which I actually heard it was the better dub.
I don't know. I preferred the original Streamline '89 dub, but that was the one I originally saw. So,
Because yeah, like the acting wasn't bad at all. It was just that one voice. I knew, given what little I know about this story, that voice is gonna be really distracting. So I just watched it in Japanese with subtitles.
yeah, sometimes you have that issue.
And of course, even then, it was still funny because you still have to deal with. I'm so used to people kind of memeing the whole shouting Tetsuo
Hmm.
and Kaneda, so it was just like that was funny to occasionally just shout that out as who's going on.
6 minutes, by the
Yeah.
way.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this sometime in the near future because, like I said, it's been 20 years.
The art style still holds up, but yeah, some of the fact that they
Yeah.
chopped out so much plot does seem to affect
Yeah,
it from the distance.
yeah, it's one of those things where if they had another go at it, I would hope that they would just do a TV show.
Yeah, they
or
probably would.
or a two-parter or a trilogy.
Or an OAV, yeah.
OAV would
Yeah.
actually work out really well.
Yeah, because they can do an OAV without having to censor it so much.
Mhm.
Whereas the Japanese television market these days are like, nope, 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 can't cut the
Yeah,
blood,
I
can't
would,
do the guts.
yeah, I would worry they'd cut out too much again still for a series.
Because the
I guess it
Japanese have
depends on
really
the
cracked
rating
down
it
on
would
that kind
get.
of thing.
At least for TV, yeah, they have cracked on it. Yeah. Anyway, any final comments?
Yeah, I would just if you can find it somewhere, I would give this a shot. It's worth looking at.
Oh,
It's
what is
it's
it
worth
called?
looking into, especially because it's just funny because this is supposed to be like like what we thought a dystopian 2019 would look like, but in Japan rather than like Blade Runner.
You just remind me if you can find it somewhere. I heard about a place recently. It's called Retro Crush, and it's actually focused on 70s, 80s, and 90s anime. It's the streaming service. I've heard about it recently from a couple different places, so that might be where you could probably easily find Akira as long as no one else has licensed it yet. Along with a whole bunch of other stuff from what I saw too. Anyway, anything else that we're covering quick?
No, other than I'd like to state the fact that if you want a copy of Assassin's Creed 2, you can log on to Uplay and get it for free.
Yep,
But
that's apparently going on for a little bit.
that's going on until the 17th, which is Friday. So, if you want it, go get it. I did.
And I
Oh,
guess
I
I barely
say-
touched Uplay and I still did it.
I will throw in that if you want to watch Akira, you can find it on Funimation if you're in the US, probably. Because
Oh, yeah, if it's on
Funimation
Funimation, they
website,
probably
yep.
won't have it. Yeah.
I tried that, and it was more of a not available in your country thing for me.
Oh, that's what they made VPNs for, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I watched it on a streaming service that gets Funimation stuff anyway, so.
I think I will mention that I don't actually have this game because I don't have a PS4. But pretty much, I've been pretty much nonstop watching streams of Final Fantasy VII Remake. It looks great. I look forward to continuing to watch these streams and see what other additions they've made, because it seems like at least so far, it seems instead of outright changes, they've mainly just fleshed out and added more spots to spotlight the characters that only appear in Disc 1. So I've been really enjoying it. It definitely makes me want to buy a PS4 as soon as I can afford one. And yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Final Fantasy VII fanboy anyway, so that's really no surprise.
Yeah, I heard.
But I've definitely been enjoying it. The people that I've seen play it have said that a lot of them were wary at first, but really found that they got into the combat system once they got a chance to actually try it out. The frustrating part is that classic mode is only available in easy. So if you want it to be more like a turn-based RPG, you pretty much have to play easy mode.
That's a little annoying, yeah.
That feels like giving a middle finger to your fans. That's what that feels like. I understand for whatever reason Square's gotten into their brain that turn-based is bad, and yet every freaking time they release a new turn-based action RPG, it sells like gangbusters, and they can never keep this stupid thing in stock. And then they still continue to sit here going, "No, we're going to keep updating things."
I think it's almost a thing if they wanted to get out of turn-based stuff, but they never
there is a large segment of the population that looks at gameplay of a game like Final Fantasy VII and says, "Oh, it's so unrealistic. It's boring. Why are they standing there waiting to get hit when they could be moving around?" And I think they're catering to that vocal minority.
Very small minority.
It seems like they know that Final Fantasy VII has a lot of huge turn-based fans, and it seems to be more on the turn-based direction than other new games that they've put out. It seems to be a kind of an attempt at a compromise.
I may wind up getting that. I've got to see how much money I have and figure out whether I want to do that or buy some Assassin's Creed games from Ubisoft or what I want to do.
You get more mileage if your Assassin's Creeds if they're still on sale.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing for me is I've never actually played Final Fantasy VII before.
Oh God!
So
I've had so many.
I've got the port for PS4, which is funny because I'm like, well, why get the remake now when I can just play? And I've never played the original, so I can just play through that first for cheaper.
I beat 1. I beat 2.
It depends on what kind of gamer you are. I think especially younger gamers that grew up with fully voiced RPGs and HD graphics would probably find the remake to be a lot more their style. Whereas if you've played a lot of PS1 era and old school RPGs, you'll probably the various ports and remasters are probably going to be perfectly fine.
7.
Because it's funny now. I have the ports of 7, 8, and 9 on PS4.
Yeah, the thing is, I've never beaten 8 or 9. I've played them both.
Ooh.
I've played them both to near the end, but the power creep in 8 eventually turned me off because everything leveled with you, and I just got to one area where I had leveled so much that it was damn near impossible.
I've started 8, but I think what turned me off was listening to people talk about how terrible the junction system is and how tedious and unfun it is to play, and I'm like, why am I going to try to grind?
It can be tedious when you find something that has a new magic and you're sitting there trying to drain it for like half an hour.
So because that's what you have to do. Is you literally have to find something that has a certain type of magic you're looking for. You need to drain it for forever, and that's the only way you can actually gear up your characters and not have them ganked by the end game because of leveling up.
9, I think I just got bored with the plot at the beginning of Disc 3. Because I was having fun with it through Disc 1 and 2, and then it took a turn for the depressing, and I'm just like...
It turns back around.
I just never got past that.
And I haven't finished 9 either, but it does. I know for a fact that it does turn back around.
I've beaten 10. I've never beaten 10-2.
Because I've never played 10-2.
I've played it. I've never beaten it because it's basically.
I beat the original version of 10.2, but apparently the international and the remastered versions have an ending that was, I guess, was added on. I haven't played that part.
No, you have
But
to.
I did beat, like, not 100%, but I did basically beat 10.2, the North American original
That's
version.
how you got the extended ending, was with 100%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because from what I thought I saw something saying it was on the international and on the remaster.
No,
As far
it's
as
on
I'm aware,
it's
it
on
was-
all of them. You just have to 100% it.
Anyway,
The
No
extra
skipping.
mission.
I'm wondering if they removed the 100% requirement for the international one.
Gotta wonder. Yeah, they made
Um,
it easy.
No, I've never played 11, though I owned it because that was one of the online games.
I played it.
never
It
played
was
12.
okay, but then people stopped playing around the time I was getting deep into it. It's like, oh, well, I guess I'll give it
Never
up.
played 13 or 12.
12 is Final Fantasy: The Star Wars Story. It's good, but still Star Wars.
And then of course, Aaron, Matt, and myself, or at least Aaron and myself, have done 14 on streams.
I have not yet touched 14. I've been meaning to
Yeah,
get around to it
but-
eventually, but you guys were playing when I was like already
But that,
heavily burdened on my computer.
That's one thing I'm looking forward to with grad school. Now that I have a stipend that's almost equal to my annual income. Actually, my stipend is equal to my annual income from most of the past 4 years, which means that I don't need to work full time ever unless I want extra money. So that means during summertime I can actually play games.
and not have to skip podcasts.
hmm I mean, certainly when I'm doing like finals and stuff, skipping podcasts is a possibility, but it won't be because I'm working 40, 50 hours a week ever.
And yeah, I've played the hell and beat 15. So yeah, I'm caught up to date on my Final Fantasy that way. But anyway, we're done with that. That's way off
That was
course.
the long
Yeah.
ramble. We made
That-
up for,
that went
we
way
made up
off
for
of what-
time.
That went way off of what I was talking about.
Yep. So we can move on
Okay.
to the summary because I don't have a rant this week. Other than people acting stupid across the globe with the virus, and I've talked about that a couple weeks ago.
We've talked about it a couple of weeks ago. They only get dumber.
Yeah,
Other than
apparently
the fact-
somebody in Spain decided to streak halfway across the city. They broke out of their lockdown and started streaking, and I'm just like, what the hell?
I just
Did we
Bill
lose
keeps
Bill?
trying to talk and then cuts himself off.
Or his internet does. But no, it's just like I see that kind of stuff and I'm like, I'm sorry, I've never gotten cabin fever so bad I felt the need to streak. I'm sure if I did, I'd probably render half the neighborhood blind.
I've heard some really genius moves in certain places. People have decided to break quarantine to go find the places where they're trying to make the cure and burn the places down because they're accusing them of possibly spreading the virus.
Yep.
Because
I've heard of that too.
intelligence.
Oh, there we go.
There's a
Everything
Bill
went
back.
quiet. I was like, I remember that happening last week.
Yeah, you were just opening your mouth and suddenly it clicked off.
You were talking about people acting crazy with the virus. I was saying I had just seen a headline like an hour ago in one of the U.S. state capitals. There was a massive protest of people claiming that like the stay-at-home orders were treating them as like criminals or prisoners. They said that we're not prisoners.
Yeah. And this was a public protest with a bunch of people spreading the virus around.
Yep.
Yep. Look
I'm
for these
sorry,
people to come
Darwin
to drop
called
dead
you
next week.
failed.
I'm not a number. I am a free man.
You're a dead man now. But you've just made yourself a number.
In terms of rant-related things like that, I just mentioned it's a really shitty time for anybody who has to spend any time in the hospital or any sort of healthcare situation. Any other year, and I would have been able to visit my mother at least 2-3 times a week. Instead, I haven't seen her since she broke her hip a month ago. And of course, now there's no longer any chance. So that's a really shitty aspect of the whole thing.
It is.
I also
but
feel
it's
really bad for
necessary.
people that rely on family members to translate for them, because that means they're pretty much stuck in a system with only interpreters that they're not used to.
Yep. because that's kind of the way things are right now.
Mhm. And apparently there's a shortage of interpreters because of the way hospitals are being overwhelmed, which isn't really a surprise, but it still sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, was there anything else we're covering, or we were trying to get to?
I think we're ready for the summary.
Yeah,
I think so.
we are wandering way off again. Whose summary is it this week?
I believe my name was on the list.
Yes.
I haven't even looked at the list that shows how bad I am today.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was you.
Okay.
It's Wu. You're ready?
Yes.
All right, starting.
Although
in
I should have written
3,
down everybody's names.
2, 1, go.
The episode begins with Sarah Jane's aunt talking with some people, basically about the fact that Sarah Jane is so hard to track down, and there's a box for her. We then cut to Sarah Jane arriving in that same place. Her aunt is in the United States, ahead of schedule for whatever reason, which surprises her, and she's also supposed to be picking up Brendan, who is her some family relation. I believe he was referred to as the aunt's ward, which I didn't realize was used in the 20th century. There's a lot in this episode I didn't realize was associated with the 20th century, like telegraphs. But anyway, so Sarah has to go pick him up, and he's essentially the companion for the episode. It seems like he would have been the companion for the show. In the process, or as things go on, she meets, or she mentions already knowing, but she kind of meets her aunt's business partner, a man who lives in the neighborhood, and it kind of manages the company that they run together. And he also is involved with, he is kind of the exposition character for much of the episode. Sarah also meets, I believe, a man. His name is Peter, I believe, a young man who brings her tea. They decide to open up the box, which happens to be K-9 Mark III, left by the Doctor 3 years earlier. Which I would say is, I feel sorry for K-9, but it could just be, wonky timelines in the third and fourth Doctor era. And all right, so the plot kind of really kicks off when the young man and his father first attack Brendan. They attack Brendan. I'm not sure if it's ever specified why. K-9 kind of helps in subduing them and scaring them off. Sarah is investigating what went on because she didn't realize who it was. But while investigating this, both the young man and Brendan go missing. They tie this into a theory that Sarah Jane's aunt had, where she had been kind of become the black sheep of the town due to talking about believing that witchcraft and dark rites were going on in the town and becoming unpopular because of expressing that. K-9 and Sarah Jane begin looking up spots where witchcraft rituals could be taking place, where eventually they find one where a coven has been chanting to Hecate and is about to sacrifice Brendan. During the episode, it's revealed that the young man, whose name I'm not remembering, was kind of forced into capturing Brendan by order of the coven. K-9 kind of beats the shit out of everybody with lasers. It's revealed that the business partner who had been helping Sarah Jane around is one of the high priests. Other figures that we've seen throughout the episode. Everybody wraps up. They go back at home for Christmas dinner. And Sarah Jane's aunt phones in. She's perfectly fine and had left a message with one of the members of the coven that never made it to Sarah Jane. They'll talk about it more in the next episode, which never happens. The end.
3 minutes, 58 seconds.
I think I got everything that was important in there.
There were some minor things you left out, like the
Mhm.
fact that the place where the coven was actually doing the ritual was actually at the manor house.
Yeah, K-9 suddenly came to a
Yeah, but I
realization
was
there
like,
a
what
spot there.
manner?
That
Unless
was
they meant-
their
yeah.
manor.
Their manor. The
That
place
was
where
Oh,
that
okay.
was-
Sarah
that was
Jane's
part of
aunt lives is the manor.
Like they
Yeah.
said the manor, but I was like, what manor? Like that's not a name of a place. That's a vague descriptor.
Yeah, well, when they were referring
There's
to it,
only
they were-
one manor in the story, Bill.
Anyway, yeah, that was part of the reason they wanted the aunt out, was the fact that she was encroaching on their coven's meeting spot.
Mhm.
Someone's
Anyway.
echoing really badly. And as soon as I mention it, it stops.
I don't know. Someone might need to turn me down a little. I'm not sure who's
It's not
doing
just
it.
you. I've been hearing a couple other people echo.
Anyway,
Hmm.
it looks like it's coming off of Tim.
That might have been it.
Oh,
Any-
what can I do?
Turn your audio down slightly.
Just a smidge.
Anyway, I wanted to point out before that there was a rumor about this episode, which was apparently true, but then they decided not to go with it. Is in the original plan for the K-9 and Company's first season, it was going to be revealed by the end of the season that K-9 was not actually sent to Sarah Jane by the Doctor, but actually from the Master. That was going to be like the big season finale plot. As it turns out, that was a ruse. But
Interesting.
Yeah, I've
They
heard
never-
that theory, but they decided obviously to go against it because they could never continue.
yeah, because the series was never picked up. Because the series was never picked up, they never realized that plot. And when they went to make School Reunion back in 2006, they didn't go with that because the Doctor recognized, and was happy to see K-9.
Hmm.
There's
So-
that, and also I think the K-9 was with Sarah Jane during the Five Doctors as well.
Yeah, but the Doctor never saw it.
Oh.
It was only with her on
In the opening
Earth.
bit, yeah.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
then the little space tornado, or whatever you want to call it, took her away,
The time scoop.
leaving K-9 there.
Yeah. Still, the fact of the matter is that it remained canon that he was with Sarah, and apparently the Doctor was not weirded out by her having a K-9, so
Well,
ergo,
no, the Doctor
ergo
never
we skipped
saw
the
it.
master plot.
Yeah, you never saw it in the Five Doctors, though. It was just
I didn't argue that. I was saying that he saw it in School Reunion and had no
Mhm.
complaints, so ergo we skipped the
fact-
plot.
Yep. And then, of course, K-9 Mark IV would be Sarah Jane's after School Reunion, and that would be the one that we eventually saw in the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so let's talk about what we liked about this episode. And, I was a bad boy, and I forgot to roll up the names.
So that means there's a Mark IV still running around in Britain somewhere right now.
Uh-huh. Well, if you follow the story, probably Luke would be the one to have it.
Most likely Luke would have K-9 right now, yeah.
Okay, so Tim's first.
Oh, hooray! Okay, so what I liked about this episode, I really enjoyed the Christmas touches in this episode, and all the references to the happy holiday season, which is a nice contrast to all the dark satanic worshipping and
Hecate.
heck.
Hecate.
I'm calling a spade a spade.
Where they have Baphomet masks and they're chanting for Hecate.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, explain that one away. I dare you. Outside of we had to edit to a certain word out of the script, I dare you.
Oh, what could that word be? Could it be Satan? Well, isn't that special?
It's like,
It certainly does not seem to be a sisterhood like most cults of Hecate in pop culture tend to be.
and Satan and Santa have the same letters.
Ain't that quaint?
Coincidence. But I did enjoy the character of Brandon. I thought he had potential to be a good companion / sidekick to Sarah Jane and K-9 if this series had gone forward.
I'm not sure if he was meant to be there past the first episode or not.
Hmm.
It's hard to say, and he did come off as a little bit awkward at times.
Well, it
Yeah.
did seem like he was coming to live with them.
It did
He
seem
wanted
that way,
to, but he
almost.
was at boarding school, so.
Mhm.
Well, he was also
Uh,
trying to get out of being in boarding school.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they had it capable if they wanted to keep
He-
the character,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but they also had it so that they could send him away if they decided it wasn't working.
Yeah.
He was building up a rapport with K-9.
Either way, we'll never know because it was never picked up for a season. And by the way-
she conveniently forgot about him in time for 2006.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And well,
And
she
this is
moved away from there and moved to where Ealing, I think, is where she was. In Sarah Jane Adventures on Bannerman Road. And apparently it was from Croydon to wherever the heck they are out in the middle of nowhere. And then back into London for the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Hmm.
Because they never really specify where, like, you
Yeah.
know, not even
They-
like what area of England.
I mean, I wonder if you could look it up by the fact that there's exactly 5 churches and 1 chapel. 8 churches and 1 chapel in a 5-mile radius, which I remember thinking was a very small number because I could pass that many in a 20-minute walk if I were to leave my apartment right now. But
Yeah, you kind of say the same thing around here, only actually it's a number of bars in one church.
Hmm.
Well, bars, it's its own particular type of religion.
yeah, I'm
The
could
village,
pass
the village of Ligsville, one church, 4 bars.
I'm pretty sure if I walked 20 minutes down Main Street, I would pass at least 5 churches and at least 5 bars. So,
Oh yeah, but I'm saying in Wisconsin, we're professionals. We have a 4-to-1 bar to church ratio,
oh,
and this was a population town of less than 150. Still required 4 bars and 1 church.
I don't know where it was filmed, but apparently they give at least wiki stuff that I'm reading gives a fictional village of Morton Harwood.
That you know because you hear it called, but you never know what district it's in.
Yeah.
You never know what part of the country it's supposed to be in.
I mean, the accents are recognizable, sort of, but I wouldn't. I'm not English, so I wouldn't necessarily be able to place them.
Yeah, I'm shrugged shoulders high. Couldn't tell them apart from any other part of England at the moment.
mhm.
Anyway, that was Tim's.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
After that would be Thomas.
Let's see. God, I'm going between 2 things. You know what? I'm just gonna go with Sarah Jane. Like it's so funny that some companions have like bugger all to do in Main Who, but then you look at and then like in spin-off stuff like this and Sarah Jane Adventures, she's got so much to do to the point that it's kind of funny that the show is called K-9 and Company when she's doing everything.
Right. K-9 doesn't show up till halfway through the episode.
Yeah.
More like a third, but yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's Gloucester.
Ah.
Because I found the filming location for K-9 and Company. Every single location's in Gloucester.
Oh,
Either
then
in
Gloucester
Disney
area then.
or Bamsley, yeah. So yeah, that's basically where it was. Awesome. Now we know. Yeah, apparently the house that we saw that was hers is in Bamsley. So there we know. It's Barnsley. Sorry, that was small print. And yeah, and that was Barnsley House. So yeah.
All right. Are you done, Thomas?
Yep.
All right.
So what was Thomas's choice there?
Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just being the awesome Sarah Jane that she is.
All right, Bill.
So I'm going to say that I don't know. I really liked the idea of, as much as there are all the things we've already criticized about how it was portrayed, but I liked the idea of it being something supernatural, like a coven that she's dealing with. It really hooked my attention. I was like, oh, it's not going to be a boring, like, regular people, or oh yeah, the Centaurans are infiltrating or something. No, it's fucking witches. And I was like, that was really interesting, and I like that they were willing to do something like that.
All right, Matt.
Oh, general thing. You know what? I've come to appreciate K-9. Darn it all, that robotic, remote controlled dog, despite being just a piece of plastic running around on wheels, has always been appealing. And he actually ran really well, it seemed, at least in this episode. They edited around a lot of the issues they're having.
You kind of you can't really tell.
You can't tell sometimes.
Yeah.
There's sometimes you can tell where you occasionally, if you're looking close enough, you can see the rope pulling him. That means they had issues. Didn't see that this episode. He seemed to be quite maneuverable.
There's that scene where he's chasing the guy through the field, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, he's really wheeling it, and it's just like, whoa, he did a decent job.
From what I can recall, watching the behind-the-scenes stuff, they do mention that they had some trouble with K-9 in this, so it's probably just that they were going with the shots that worked.
I think a lot of the shots that they had problems with was the fact that the lands were not exactly level.
Yeah. It would have, because I think they were specific. It's like, he can only really work properly when he's on level ground, so got him outdoors running over grass. It's not necessarily going to work out as well.
And they didn't show too much of that footage, but they apparently showed enough of it shot enough that they could get away with it.
All right.
So credits to the prop crew and the camera workers.
All right. So I've been railing on this episode for I don't know how long, but I will say that after rewatching it, it is not badly written. The writing seems to be good. The mystery seems to be good on how they get to the deductive reasoning to where they are. That all seems to work.
The main points of the writing are definitely work, yeah.
All right. So we've done everybody, right?
No.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about what we dislike. Tim, you're first.
Okay. I thought this episode was very stereotypically British.
You mean like how the first 2/3 of it seems to be Sarah Jane's quest for tea?
Yes.
Everywhere she goes, it's like, have some tea. Oh, I'd love some tea.
Right. I was just like, oh my god, a neighbor is introducing himself because it was suggested that he bring her a cup of tea.
It's just like there's nothing really driving this plot along until it's like, in fact, it's like part of the thing is that the box of the K-9 is just sitting there and like, oh, it's just like oh, we'll get around to it eventually. And it was like oh, like people tuned into this TV show to see a story. I guess we should get on that,
Get on with it.
Sarah Jane Smith, I would like to introduce you to my friend Arthur Dent.
And forgive me if this is like a stereotype, but that seems to be like a very like British masterpiece theater type way of like going about it. It's like maybe being an American, I'm spoiled. Like I expect my stories to start off with a bang and like go like pick up speed as they go along.
Well, they could have started this in media res with Brendan about to be sacrificed and then tried to back up across that. But then you would have heard me ranting because I fucking hate in media res. All right. Thomas.
I guess in a way, sort of to piggyback off some stuff that Tim brought up, the pacing at the front end of this is kind of just like too slow. It feels like, to the point that I'm like, this feels like just I'm watching some random BBC soap opera to start with. Like, and then like when it picks up, but at first it's just like, this could be any other, like, until K-9 shows up, it's almost as if this could just be any other random show on BBC that's just some, like, a drama or a soap opera or something.
Yes, like Tim said, you're basically ready to have them take a break and have yes, next time on Masterpiece Theater, Sarah Jane finds a metal dog. And yes, Masterpiece Theater is made possible by a grant from the Mobile Corporation. I watched a lot of Masterpiece Theater when I was a kid. You wonder why I have a British accent? It's because I watched Masterpiece Theater, Mystery, and Doctor Who religiously in the 1980s.
I imagine Next Generation probably didn't help prevent that either.
No, but it was mostly the British stuff on PBS, because I also got fed Blake 7, Space 1999, and
And he
UFO.
got fed that for multiple years, well before Next Gen ever came around. Next Gen was
Next
what,
Gen-
88, 89?
86.
86. Oh, okay. Sorry, a little bit sooner than I thought.
But no, I mean, because all Next Gen gave me was Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm getting constantly bombed every week watching the British stuff on PBS.
It's like when my sister accidentally picked up a British accent from watching Harry Potter movies on a loop.
That's the thing. I realized watching this episode, by the way, that I heard that accent and I'm just like, okay, rural English accent. It just struck me as being absolutely normal. And then I stopped and realized how weird that is for a kid born in Wisconsin, raised in Wisconsin with a little bit in California, to find a British rural accent being perfectly normal.
I just realized, hopefully we don't have too big of a British audience, because we've been saying British accent as though that wasn't like 4 different countries with 20 different accents in it.
Well, that's why I said British rural.
Yeah, this time, yeah.
Yes, I know. There, you've got received pronunciation.
We've gotten off track of whatever it was we were talking about.
But no, I know we got off track, but still, it's just one of those things that, yes, this does feel a bit slow, but you've got to take the time to introduce the characters, which is, I think, the major problem. I mean,
and that's a problem with most pilots, is that they're slowed down by that.
Even at this point, Sarah Jane had been off television as Sarah Jane for 5 years. Yeah, I think her last appearance was in 1976. The 1983 special, of course, was still 2 years away. So, given the fact that, if you were a 13-year-old at the time Sarah Jane left, you were already an adult. So, while there was still some of the audience that knew who she was, there were others that had probably really had no idea.
Now that you say that, I'm wondering, K-9 had probably been off air a couple years too, so they probably needed to spend some time establishing him for the younger
like
kids.
a year, maybe 2.
Yeah, definitely not as much, because he was still there through eSpace, right?
Yeah, he was there through eSpace, which was the end of the 81. So he had literally just gone off the air like 3 serials ago.
Okay. Which might be why it's called K-9 and Company, if he was more recognizable.
Well, he was also still extremely popular with the kids, even though he was a pain to work around.
Yeah.
Mind you, I mean, Sarah Jane was still an amazingly popular companion,
Mhm.
Right.
but these were people that grew up in the Sarah Jane era, which
Yeah.
was 74 or
So
74,
comparatively,
75,
this would kind of
76.
be like if they announced the Amy and Rory show today.
Kind of.
Kinda, sorta.
More like if they announced the adventure, if they decided to do the adventures of Clara and Ashildr today.
Yes, that's a little bit closer.
Mhm.
If they decided to do a spin-off with them spinning around in the diner, people that were just started to watch during like the Bill and during the well, there aren't new people watching during the Jodie Whittaker era, but if there were,
there were such a
Ouch.
few of them for a while, but that sank like a rock.
But the ratings don't lie, Bill.
The ratings don't lie. They're
But yeah, people that would have started during the Whittaker era picking up would go, who are these people? Why are they relevant? So they had to reestablish Sarah Jane, reestablish that she's a journalist that's basically taking a sabbatical to write a book,
Hmm.
set her up before introducing the weirdness that is K-9, and add the supporting cast, i.e. Brendan.
Hmm.
So they have to do all this before they bring in K-9, because the second K-9 shows up, things go weird. So yeah, it does have that slow start.
Is it on to me next?
Well, I wanted to make one more point.
Okay.
okay.
Who here remembers Encounter at Farpoint from Star Trek The Next Generation?
Which one is that? Because I can't remember names, but I might
That's the
remember.
very
Mhm.
first two-parter. That's the very first one where they first meet Q and they have to go to Farpoint Station.
The trial.
The trial, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I remember some of that. Yeah.
It starts up pretty damn slow, too.
Yes, agreed.
All right, that's the point I wanted to make.
Mhm.
All right, that was Thomas.
Is it me next?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's you next.
Okay, so I actually something that made it feel slower to me that I was paying attention to, and I know. So I know you mentioned when we were talking about this before the stream that this was partially a Doctor Who in this era thing, but I'll explain why it's more effective, and that is it's so quiet during parts of the episode with no score. And what really adds to that sense of quiet is when the Doctor is rushing somewhere, one, he's a nervous talker, and two, he always has at least one other person who's talking with him. Whereas here you would have scenes of just Sarah Jane driving intently. I think at one point it was just her and K-9, and K-9 is not necessarily a conversationalist. They're driving along, it's dead silent except for the sound of the car, and it's like it makes it feel like it's moving more slowly than it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, if they were doing
Mhm.
that in Doctor Who today, you would have the Doctor's theme going.
Mhm.
But
You'd
not-
have some sort of theme going, depending on what's going on.
Or I mean, like even if you were to say in Doctor Who at that era, you would have Peter Davison and you'd probably have Tegan for him to play off of, and they'd be going back and forth. No, turn left. No, there's a cliff there. I've got to turn right. No, there's a tree.
Case in point, Ace and the Doctor in Remembrance of the Daleks.
Hmm.
While they're driving, the Doctor's trying to fill Ace in on who the Daleks are, with
Yeah.
the occasional point of turn left here. No, you missed the turn.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They use that point for exposition.
Hmm.
The problem is that scene came by the time they were out of exposition,
Right.
and they wanted to tense it up. So what they needed was dramatic music, and they just didn't.
Yeah.
And I think most eras of Doctor Who, I couldn't necessarily tell you any specific span of years, but most eras of Doctor Who, there definitely would have been some tense music playing.
Mm.
Yeah, imagine that scene. Imagine that same scene with like the Cybermen theme from like the 60s playing.
Yeah.
I think the one where they had the tractor come off the road, off into the middle of the road, had some tension music for a while, but yeah.
Yeah, but no, when they're basically doing the montage of them checking locations.
They
They
could have
didn't.
possibly used a bit more.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, Matt, what's yours?
My least favorite thing. So we've talked about how it gets slow. I have a point where it gets confusingly fast in this episode. There's literally a point that Sarah Jane comes back to the manor, talks to the ward for like barely more than a couple of lines, and she's pulling off her gloves as she's doing so, and then immediately leaves again.
Yes, I noticed that. I'm like,
I'm
Yeah.
like, what was even the point of this
she
scene?
she
You
comes
should
back from
just had
talking to somebody from T. She comes in, says hello, and says, "Yeah, I'm going to go over there for a drink." I'm like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
she's
just
like
like
sat down for like
what?
5 seconds.
Yeah, she literally sat down for 5 seconds, pulled off her gloves, then got back up and immediately went back out to the car.
yeah,
It's like, why did you even need this scene? You could have literally just had
Yeah.
a shot of her in her car and her thinking, you know what, I should give these people a visit, and then immediately cut to the next scene where she's visiting.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's generally a lot of weird pacing issues through
Yeah, there's
like here and
there's
there.
just pacing issues all around. I think it was whoever wrote this was a
Yeah.
little bit rough at getting this
Well,
together.
mind you, again, this is a pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but pilots could be better written.
And they,
No.
Mhm.
What I mean is the fact that pilots usually, when the pilots are then greenlit, get reshot.
yeah, they usually get, they sometimes, at least sometimes, generally get minor rewrites. Sometimes they get recast.
Mm-hmm. This is just usually a proof of concept.
Like I could imagine them saying, "Oh, the executives really couldn't stand Brendan. Could you make him a little less eccentric or something?"
Could you make him a little younger? Could you make him,
Mhm.
something like that? By the way,
Could we get a proper K-9?
the reason this never got picked up, by the way, is the fact that the head of BBC changed over the course of the production, and the new guy, the previous guy had already greenlit the series, and the new guy was like, "Nope, we're not having that."
I think it was more so the previous head commissioned the pilot. And by the time the pilot was done and aired, I think it was also, from what I can recall watching the behind the scenes stuff, I think it might have even been John Leeson saying this, that JNT was under the, like, apparently this was basically the deal that had been done was that this would be a one and done, but JNT was hoping that it would, if it did well enough, that he'd have a bargaining chip to get a series commission.
And was
And
this the head
then-
of drama that changed, or?
I think it was the BBC controller changed.
And even though it rated well, the new guy came in and didn't like it or didn't get it or whatever, so nothing happened.
Boo.
And believe it or not, that wasn't even Michael Grade. That was Michael Grade's predecessor.
So I was gonna say, I assume this is too early to be the guy who finally got Doctor Who canceled.
Now, I had actually heard that the previous person had actually they were of the knowledge that they were going to make a series, and had started planning production. But the new guy, then the change happened, and this guy just basically went, nope. At least that's what I had read.
Shame.
At least I think
Apparently, it says on TARDIS that it was not produced or licensed by the BBC.
What?
Oh no! Sorry. It was a confusing sentence. It was talking about the 2009 K-9 series, not about this special.
Yeah, that was not.
So yeah, we already knew that. That was just.
Yeah,
I don't even know why that's in the
space
article.
case in a totally different direction. Yeah,
No,
no.
yeah, I don't even know why that was part of this article.
What? How's this not licensed with?
Yeah, there was no reason for that to be in this article. It just was confusing information.
Anyway, yeah, that was my bit. I believe we're on Randy.
Okay, yeah. So my main issue with this, whoever put the dark filter over their lens needs to stop.
Yeah, the nighttime scenes were darker than they needed to be.
And
And Matt found that if he basically removed the filter, things suddenly got a lot more detailed and better.
Yeah, I realized too late that I could actually filter it and got a lot more detail. They didn't shoot it badly over lighting. It's just the fact that someone somewhere darkened it too much. The detail's still all there. I can do this for the opening if I really want to and redo the opening, but it was a little too late to fix it for the stream. I realized it in post as I was getting ready.
Yeah, and that's been part of my issue with this particular episode or this particular show was the fact that it comes way too dark and dreary.
I don't even think it's the regular scenes. It's mostly the outdoor ones at night.
No, even the indoor scenes, I noticed it. It might not be as severe as the night scenes, but yeah, they make the mansion look extra gloomy. And I'm just like, Not usually like, the sitting room where they were in for most of it, but whenever they were walking around the rest of the house, I noticed it.
I didn't notice the rest of the house so much, but then again, there was a few times where they'd still turn on the lights there too.
Mm-hmm.
But the outdoor scenes in particular, and I lined it up just a little bit. I'm like, wow, I can see more plumes of smoke. I can see all of the grass. I can see the stonework and the walls behind them. Why did they hide it all?
It was just some bad post work, and apparently. It really didn't pay. All right, favorite scene, Tim.
I just loved K-9 trying to learn the words to "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" at the end.
All right, Thomas.
You wish we a merry reject.
God, I almost want to cheat and go with the intro. Just because the intro is so like...
The intro is amazingly 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is like so 80s.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like ridiculous to the point like, wait, what's going on here? And then it just kind of flips it around to being like
it's Day in the Life of Mary Jane as she runs around K-9.
It's
like that was apparently composed by Ian Levine, by the way.
It's like an early 80s music video or something. Like there are points where I can just like, God, I think
between
like
that and Sarah Jane's wardrobe, it's so 80s.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the person that they had that had previously approved the series was Bill Cotton, and he was controller of BBC One at the time, and he was replaced by Alan Hart, who basically thought it was a horrible idea and immediately said no.
Boo. Mr. Hart has no heart.
I guess a fun thing watching the behind the scenes thing was John Leeson talking about the recording for the intro where they got him to come in, and he's like, oh, they want me in for a session. That's like, do they want me to do like a whole song? And he gets in and they're just like, okay, now you just have to say K-9, K-9, and he's just like, okay, and then he does it, and it's like, yep, that's good, you're done. And he's just like, wait, what?
And then he hears the results later and goes, oh, God.
K-9.
And, by the way, Hart was the immediate predecessor to Michael Grade, so things just went from bad to worse.
Yeah, apparently.
And it wasn't Grade that canceled the series in '89. It was the guy after him, Jonathan Powell. So Jesus, just like every single person after Bill Cotton was just hater on the series.
Well, it didn't help that they occasionally threw the odd rotten egg for an episode out the door. So, yeah.
Bill, favorite scene.
My favorite scene, I've been trying to figure out which scene I wanted to go with, but I think I'm going to go with the father, the father of the leather jacket guy, convinced that K-9 was the avatar of Hecate, and that had come to chase him. Yes.
Even though the freaking dog is like gunmetal gray.
Right. You've led it here. What are you talking? You've led it here. The dog. I just enjoyed that scene.
All right. Matt, favorite scene?
Favorite scene. Um. I guess I'll go with the K-9 unboxing.
Damn you!
This first, it's like, oh, this is weird. This is unusually heavy. Whatever it is. Oh, it's a metal dog. And all of a sudden, he powers up and goes, "Yes, I'm a gift from the doctor." The doctor, and you just see her instantly light up. And, then she gets questioned about it and immediately just tell you later.
You say specifically Canon unboxing it, and I just immediately picture like a thing from like when they bring Sarah Jane Adventures back of like, oh yes, this is Sarah Jane. I'm about to do.
Because I'm about to do my new K-9 Mark 5 unboxing.
Well, you know, if Elizabeth Sladen has lived, they might have been up to Mark 5 by now.
Depends on what they did with him for plot points.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to pass because y'all took mine.
There's some more yet. Speaking
Yeah,
of which, actually, I am the last one in the line, aren't I?
Yep. So we'll move on to least favorite scenes. Tim.
I just dislike that scene where Sarah Jane is like trying to talk to those two people. Is like, well, you have to help me. Something is going on. It's like, oh, but it's so unbelievable, like magic and witchcraft. It's like, what nonsense? Like, and it's like it just hits me as like an example of what I hate: arbitrary skepticism.
Well, yeah, they were trying to set those two up as red herrings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
No, it didn't. Thomas.
God. I'm going between two, so I'll just go with because one, it's more so just like an issue with something that they added to it that threw me off, so I'll just go with the one that's just the scene itself that kind of throws me off, as like the bit during like the initial conversation with K-9 where Brandon just gives that like donkey laugh, and it's just like
the one that Sarah refers to as honking.
Yeah. It's just like, where the fuck did that come from?
I seriously considered that for mine.
Well, now you can't use it because Thomas got it.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully they don't do it again at all, but it's almost one of those things where, oh god, if this had been greenlit, would that have become a recurring thing?
His awkward, annoying laugh.
Yeah.
His bray of a laugh. I mean, you know, it sounds like somebody trying to do a nerd laugh and not succeeding.
Mm.
If you remember the nerd laugh from Revenge of the Nerds.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's 80s for you. And that wouldn't happen for another like 2-3 years.
Yeah, they would have done better to have him snort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bill, it's up to you. Your least favorite scene?
So I'm going to go with the scene where even though she was right in this instance, but it still frustrates me when it happens, when they're asking Sarah Jane, you know, isn't it possible you could have misinterpreted the evidence? And she's like, are you calling me a liar? You're calling me a liar. And I'm like, I hate it when people do that. And it's like, no, just because someone's saying that maybe you didn't see what you think you saw does not mean that they're saying you're lying about everything you saw. And even though I know she was right in this instance, it still pisses me off to see that tactic used.
Mm-hmm. Matt.
Trying to think. Oh, I forget how it was now. Just the some of the awkward stuff with the cult, because was this do we know if this was supposed to be a family show or was it supposed to be a kids show?
Oh, it was still aimed at the Doctor Who audience.
It was still named the normal Doctor Who audience. Still supposed to be a family show. So okay, I can
No,
forgive
no,
some.
nope. This was Classic Who, so it was technically designated as a children's show.
Oh, so it was designated as a children's show still.
So is Doctor
Okay.
Who,
Hmm.
or was Doctor Who in the classic era.
Yeah.
It become a family show until 2005.
Yeah, Doctor
So
Who
for the
still
same
got away with
audience as
things.
80s too, though. Yeah.
Our Doctor Who still got away with things that most children's shows I don't think did back then, even starting back in the 70s.
Get away with it and had people writing into the BBC and complaining.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mary Whitehouse.
but some of the cult stuff has got particularly grim for a air quotes children's show.
Well, like I said, like we've said, that had to be a last minute change of a writer going down, going, nope, can't use Satan.
Yeah.
Can't use Satan, Hecate. We're going to use Hecate.
Right,
instead."
right.
That still doesn't get rid of the fact that there's a lot of really weird stuff, like people prancing around with daggers, and the one scene that particularly gets an eyebrow raise on me, where they just keep a young man captive on a dirty mattress in the middle of a cellar floor.
You want worse, Matt? I've read the novelization of this.
Oh dear.
In the
Oh, boy.
novelization for the sacrifice, he was supposed to be naked.
Yeah, that wasn't gonna get past the censors whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a specific scene where it's like, whoa, hey, we probably should have wrapped that whole thing around him, because it's like, if there's like a scene where like she's helping him off it, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Beatley going
that
out to build that
material-
field with being put on an altar naked probably gave the poor guy cold feet and probably a cold couple other things.
Oh, God, it's retreating. Yeah.
Can I get some heme pads? Just put them around my groin.
Okay, so my statement in idiocy is K-9 encountering the garden goblin. This is supposed to be a sophisticated robot with sensors. Should have known that that's a ceramic lifeless object. Nope. Not to mention the fact that he goes right past the person he's looking for with the dog with advanced sensors that should have been detecting life form. Life form. I'm like, really?
There's no suspense in the show of K-9's not bumbling around human customers.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, did the Doctor design you extra stupid?
No, I think he just forgot a few logical things that he should know about that particular era.
Oh, right. I need to make you with 1980s parts. Yet he didn't because Sarah Jane couldn't fix him. I don't know. The
Wah,
thing can
wah.
do detailed soiled analysis, but can't figure out that the heat source is that way. I don't know.
I don't know. Did he have heat sensors yet? Depends on the version, I suppose.
If he had soil analysis, he should have had at least infrared vision.
Yep. He's able to
I'll
detect,
give you that, at
he's
least
able to
infrared,
detect the
and that
pH
should have detected
balance of
something.
soil. Yeah. Because that's that scene later after he does the soil analysis where Brandon's holding the soil. It's like, oh, this looks like a pH of 9 trying to look smart when really he got the information from K-9.
Actually, I think in some of the Romana episodes, he had either infrared or heat vision or something along those lines. So, if so, this one should have too.
Yep. I'm just saying he should have been able to detect that, and they just made him pull the dumb. All right, final thoughts. Tim.
I thought this was the most respectful portrayal of pagan rituals since the original Wicker Man. No, I'm just kidding. Kidding.
I thought it was the most respectful since the 1980s Dragnet.
0 for 2.
People against goodness and normalcy.
PAGAN.
Pagan.
Thanks, Joe.
I watched that movie way too much.
Oh, I bet I watched it even more.
I don't know. I can quote most of it verbatim. All right.
Okay.
Now it's
well,
just you, me,
and this
your
drawer.
balls, and this drawer. Wham!
And anyway, I thought it had potential, like for a series if it had been picked up. I saw something, but that might just be the optimist in me. K-9 and Sarah Jane were good. It was a bit of a dark episode to start off a potential series, though, so I don't know what they were smoking. But like, I can't hate on this episode that badly. It was okay.
All right, Thomas.
I'm trying to remember where I may have seen this, but I feel like this has like a bad reputation
It does.
among.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's like it was interesting going into watching this for the first time with that in mind, and coming out of it just like, well, it wasn't that bad. I mean, like
Mhm.
that. Yeah, it has pacing issues.
Yeah, that's
It's
actually
really weird.
almost verbatim what I said to these guys after I got in the call earlier before you showed up.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, there's pacing issues. There's like, it's just such a weird start to go with a cult thing. Like randomly deciding, and like bits and pieces of it. I mean, it's funny because there are scenes that they have with that Sarah Jane has with the older couple, and I'm like, what is this Sarah Jane's baby now? And just like, just this is, if this is like, give this a couple more passes and it would have been a lot better. But also just, you know it's interesting to think what could have been if this had actually been picked up. I mean, the ratings were better than anything that the Doctor Who season that preceded it got, so it did pretty well.
Really?
Yeah, this got an 8.4, like 8.4 million viewers, as opposed to I think the highest the season before it of Doctor Who got was like maybe a 7 point something.
Although there's also the fact that it was a holiday special and
There was
Mhm.
more
hard to
people available to see
hard to
it.
compare
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
raw viewing figures
Yeah.
compared to regular episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I think the season before it got as low as 3 million for an episode. I could be wrong. I might have been looking at the wrong season. But I mean, like the next season the figures go up. But yeah, I like, for the bad reputation this has, I honestly don't think it was that bad. I actually enjoyed it. Like, I mean, I watched it twice through, and it did not seem to. My opinion on it didn't seem to diminish on the second viewing. So yeah,
Yeah, there was one episode in the previous series that went down to 3.7.
Oof.
And that was an episode of Full Circle. With Adric.
which is why it's almost kind of funny that this got got
Um,
as many viewers as it,
Yeah,
because
this pulled an 8.4. Warriors Gate episode 3 pulled an 8.3. And that's the highest that serial did, or that season did. Legopolis was running a 7.7, 2 weeks, a 5.8, and a 6.1. So I think that had the best average.
Yeah, I feel like people should give this a chance. I mean, like, in a way, I feel like if it wasn't for this, and it's so amazing to watch the behind the scenes stuff of this, which I feel like people should check out, because it's interesting that, like, Elizabeth Sladen loved doing this, and apparently even JNT was like full on for this. Apparently he was on set every day while they were filming this.
Oh yeah,
which is-
this was his baby. He
Mm,
was fully behind this. He wanted to make this into a series. It was going to be the first Doctor Who spin-off series.
mm.
And that's the
So-
reason he chose Sarah Jane and K-9, because they were two really popular companions.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Two of the most
Yeah.
arguably popular companions up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say people should definitely like, there's not everyone is going to enjoy this, but I do think people should at least check this out regardless of the reputation it seems to have.
I think I remember bringing this to a craptacular one year. All right, Bill.
So yeah, I'm gonna echo with the others that this definitely was not as bad as its reputation led me to believe. I also want to give a nod to a scene that we did not mention under favorite scenes, but I liked. Who is the doctor? Affirmative.
No, Matt mentioned that scene.
Oh, he did mention
I
it.
did
Yeah,
mention
he
that.
stole
That's
it.
that's
Stole it
part of the
from me.
unboxing.
Oh, you're saying it's part of the whole overall unboxing. Okay.
Yep.
I didn't hear you mention that specific line.
The doctor? Who's the doctor? Affirmative.
Yep. Okay, so it was mentioned then.
Yep.
But yeah, and that's the thing. I think this had some pretty good comedy. Sarah Jane was eerily similar to 2000's Sarah Jane. And I think that's part of like this is who Sarah Jane, the character, and Elizabeth Sladen, the actor, who they come out as when not playing off of either Tom Baker or John Pertwee.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was eerily similar how much like the future version of her she already was. And yeah, I really enjoyed how they just started off with the occult right away. Just it's something interesting, it's something different, and it caught my attention. It definitely had flaws, and that kind of puts me in between two different rating choices. But I would have definitely been willing to watch more if I had seen this.
All right. Matt?
There are pacing issues in this episode. There's also some weird takes on certain things that got a little bit for a children's show. But that being said and put aside, the plot didn't hang around too long. It did generally speed up towards the middle a little bit, and it was a comprehensive story that didn't have any major plot holes or anything. And it did hold a genuine mystery as to who all these cult members are until the very end to reveal who they were, because you weren't guaranteed to all know of them. And yeah, the K-9 and Sarah Jane are basically doing their A game right off the bat. And it worked out really well, and I wish it would have actually gotten what it deserved. But that being said, there was still a few minor hiccups, and it could have used a little bit of repacing and maybe a slightly right. And then things would have actually probably been perfect.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I've read the novelization of this. I've watched this before. And to be honest, when I watched it before, I don't think I managed to watch the whole thing because I think I fell asleep. I do remember the unboxing of K-9. I think it was somewhere after that I fell asleep. But I managed to watch the whole thing, and yeah, it's not as bad as I recall either. There are some issues. Somebody apparently needs to turn off their dark filter when post-production work is going on. There were a few weird scenes, and the music could have been a little more. It could have been a little more. But the story isn't that bad for. I mean, it works as a whodunit. It's interesting enough that I would have loved to have seen this episode revised and then put into production as a full series. Whether that would have been Sarah Jane and Brendan and K-9, or Sarah Jane and Aunt Lavina and K-9. whichever or all of them, going around solving mysteries in rural England. That might have been interesting. Could have been British Scooby-Doo. And I could have got away from it too if it wasn't for you meddling reporter and your tin dog.
Affirmative.
But yeah, you know, what could have been, what should have been, what might have been. We'll never know. All right. While we don't get to rate it on how it was in its own series, we do get to rate it as an independent, and we are rating it now. So, let's get to rating. Tim?
I will give this episode a 3.5.
Wow.
Oof.
Pretty harsh from Tim. Thomas?
You know, just like certain issues, I think knock it down enough that I'll probably just give it a 4.
You are not making it easy to pick between the scores that I'm dead in the middle of.
Well, now you got to pick,
Because
Bill.
on one hand, I like it more than most things. I give a 3.5. On the other hand, I don't think it's quite good enough to be a 4. So I'm coming down in like the 3.7 to 3.75 range. And I guess that means that it's closest to a 3.5, but just barely.
Okay, it's a weird day when Bill and Tim arrive at the same thing that's not a 5.
Oof. Yeah.
Matt?
I keep trying to decide. I think I'm going to stick to a 4.5.
Ooh, that's high.
It just needs rewrites. It needs rewrites and another pass, and it'll be fine.
And I'm going to give this a 4.0, which means that it will average out to a 3.9, which makes me and Thomas correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was like I'm trying to be more discerning about like what I give 4s and 5s to. You know.
I just thought, yes, but you're normally our high scorer. So when you gave it a 3.5, I'm like, whoa. That means everyone else is going to be giving it 2s.
I need to look back at what I've been giving a 4 because I realized I'm having difficulty right now thinking of what the difference between a 4 and a 4.5 is. So if I can discern that a little better, I might change.
I feel
my
like there's
rating to a
very
4.
little that needs to be fixed here, and then it would be 5 serviceable. Just about.
So anyway, the 3.9 will put this at 176 out of 337 things reviewed. It is on par with a lot of things, but I will try to shave it down. The Doctor's Daughter, Gardens of the Dead, The Chase, The Next Doctor, Blink, Monster of Peladon, Midnight, Kerblam, Into the Dalek, Warrior's Gate, interestingly enough, as we had just brought that up, Colony in Space, Brain of Morbius, The Deadly Assassin, and Knock Knock. It is better than Keeper of Traken, interestingly enough, Boomtown, Ghostlight, Enemy of the World, Girl in the Fireplace, End of the World, etc. And not quite as good as A Good Man Goes to War, Attack of the Cybermen, The Runaway Bride, Vengeance of Varos, and Heaven Sent.
And also just realized that it still rated lower than the Sarah Jane Adventures ones we did recently.
Which those had,
yeah, those were really solid episodes for children's television.
They had the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
So
whereas this needed a pass.
176 out of 337. That is all we have to say about K-9 and Company.
All right, so please comment below what you think about K-9 and Company. Do you think, do you agree that it's underrated? Or do you think that we did a terrible job and it's just a really bad story? Don't forget to subscribe to continue getting our YouTube exports, or to follow us on Twitch to keep getting our new streams and highlights.
All right. Well, next week on an Unearthly podcast, there is no Unearthly podcast, as this is the end of our 13th season. Come on, cheering, guys, cheering.
Yay! 13 season.
Yay.
13 more. Let's go for 14.
Not sure we have enough for another 13 seasons. Anyway,
If we get if Big Finish endorses us, we do.
oh yeah, if Big Finish will endorse us and just give us complete access to their library, we will totally shill for them. Hint, 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 hint. Anyway,
We have
so
solid
with the end of
microphones.
our season, we will be taking next week off to reflect on our lives and figure out what we're doing for the next season. So in 2 weeks, we'll see what we're doing in 2 weeks.
Yep.
It'll be a surprise to you as it is for us.
I love surprises. That's the best kind of prize.
Hickety, 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 hickety.
Knock it off, Matt. Shut up, Matt.